There's mine.
I hate to see my picture this big. It's scary.
I understand. It's happened to me before. All right.
When you get to be this old, you'll understand it a lot more.
Stop it. All right. You should now be a co-host. So
All right.
You can pause and.
I did kind of roll call just now. I'm still looking for John Thomas, but everyone else is present. I sent a link to the folder that had all the information for tonight's meeting. And are there any corrections to the minutes from last month's meeting?
None from me.
Come on, Kevin.
I didn't see anything. So would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right, so moved. All right, first up, we have Chief Curtis. He has a great presentation and some visitors here with us. So we're really excited to see what he's got. Chief Curtis?
All right. If you can give me just a second. Captain Spears is having trouble getting in, so I'm going to see if I can't get him in.
Okay.
Sorry, hopefully this is the only technical glitch. All right. I just wanted to briefly go over some of our hiring practices and our process. We currently have 3 openings. I wanted to take an opportunity. I think it's be a good time to just briefly go over them. We've talked before about our efforts to increase our diversity and promote that for our hiring practices. And I wanted to just briefly go over it. I'm going to try and share my screen here, just to give you an idea of what our process is and some of the headwinds that we encounter. Is everybody able to see that?
Yes, Chief Curtis.
Yeah, I can see it, Chief.
Okay. In our most recent process, the deadline was last Friday, actually. We have 3 positions open. We held the opening for about 4 weeks to allow people to apply. And as you can see, we got 27 qualified applications for those positions. Probably 20 to 27 will pass the test. So we'll only have 20 applicants, and only one of those, unfortunately, is a female. And one of the reasons, and we're not the only department that's police agency that's having these issues, surveyed by the Police Executive Research Forum that's published here in the ABC News online, it indicates that every department is having a decrease in applications, early exits, and higher rates of retirement, and also having trouble hiring non-white and minority applicants the most, followed by female officers, according to the survey. And that survey was this past December, although for some time we've had some difficulty. We're in competition with 71 state and local enforcement agencies in the St. Louis area. That's in addition to federal law enforcement agencies. On our last CALEA assessment, we did an analysis report. There were only 29 minority recruits in all the local police academies, and only 34 in the 2 years previously. We also did an analysis of our hiring rates for the past 5 years. And during that time, 12% of our hires were Black, 61% white, 25% female, and 75% male. And those are both over the national average. We do have a recruitment plan. One of the issues that we just said was that we don't reward lateral transfers, and also we don't have an ongoing process. We only hire when we have an opening. It wouldn't be cost productive or productive at all for us to hire year round. And when we do have an opening, the people who would apply like 6 months later, they're not going to be there. So we only advertise and hire when we have an opening. That also makes it a little more difficult. We're in the top 10 tier of police agencies for salaries. This is our latest job posting. As you can see, we start at $58,000 a year, which is a fairly decent salary for a beginning police officer. And we'll raise that a little bit for someone who's coming in laterally with a little bit of experience. For our hiring brochures, when we go out to recruit, this is our brochure. It's also posted online. It gives all the information. Also, as you can see, it's minorities and females are strongly encouraged to apply. We really do try and reach out, touch everybody that we can to try and get qualified recruits. In our latest process, we created a video. So we are using this now also as a recruitment method, and I felt that it would be interesting, if not important, for you to see the video. And I apologize, there's some transitions in here that didn't translate well to the PowerPoint. I'm not quite sure why.
Are you looking for a job that gives you the opportunity to make a difference, provides excellent benefits, and career advancement? The Webster Groves Police Department is currently hiring for the position of police officer.
Hello, I'm Detective Fred Bell, Community Engagement Officer for the City of Webster Groves Police Department. Webster Groves is a diverse, vibrant community and is one of the best places to live in Missouri. Established in 1896, Webster Groves is one of the oldest municipal police departments in the St. Louis metropolitan area. Rich in history, our department today is a modern, professional organization. In 2004, Webster Groves was one of the early agencies in Missouri to receive accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. The Webster Groves Police Department considers community policing its cornerstone philosophy. The department places an emphasis on addressing not only traditional roles in police protection, but in quality of life issues that make the City of Webster Groves such a desirable community in which to work, live, and entertain.
I majored in criminology and criminal justice, so police work was always something that I was interested in. I didn't think that I would necessarily become a police officer, but it's just what I decided to do. Do like that we get the opportunity to work our own cases. I think if I was with another department, I probably wouldn't have the opportunity to actually process my own crime scene, do the fingerprints, photograph.
I was basically working a 9-to-5. I always said I wanted to be a police officer. Never really did it. It was something that was in the back of my head, but I never really took the chance to actually go try. And then once I had my son, I wanted to build some type of legacy for somebody, like a positive role model for him. And I would have just been, I don't know, disappointed in myself if I at least didn't try. I think the residents support us because they have a level of trust for the police officers in the city. I think that we as police officers in Webster Groves, I just think that we're allowed that time to really invest and to really problem solve and help out the residents. Like certain departments may be too busy to really deal with certain complaint from their residents and stuff like that. And here in Webster Groves, we're allowed some time where we can actually sit down and let them know that, hey, we're here, you called us, and we want to help.
This career opportunity offers stability, as well as opportunities for career growth. We offer specialized assignments at the officer level to give you a wide variety of professional experiences and provide extensive training for each. Career advancement and opportunities include the Community Policing Unit, School Resource Officers, Community Engagement Officer, Traffic Unit, Criminal Investigations Unit, and County and Federal Task Forces, including narcotics. We offer a starting salary of $58,168 to $77,784 annually and provide excellent benefits, including participation in the Missouri State Loggers Pension Program, health insurance, and educational assistance programs that help you earn a college degree. If you would like to learn more, visit our Employment Opportunities page.
We also advertise and recruit from the following educational institutions. We have Harris-Stowe, Lindenwood, Lincoln, Southern Illinois, University of Missouri, Missouri Baptist, St. Louis University, and the University of Central Missouri. We recruit from St. Louis County Municipal Police Academy, the Eastern Missouri Police Academy, Jefferson College Police Academy, the Mineral Area College Law Enforcement Academy, the Lincoln University Law Enforcement Academy. And we advertise through Indeed, East-West Gateway, St. Louis American. We notified the North Webster Neighborhood Coalition and the Alliance for Interracial Dignity that we had openings. We also, at the encouragement from outside groups, we investigated the potential of partnering with or recruiting candidates through the Ethical Society of Police Association. They were totally unresponsive. We made several calls, sent several emails. As we suspected, they really are their interest is focused on St. Louis City and St. Louis County. They're not really geared toward the smaller municipalities. And last, we plan on establishing an intern program for potential candidates. Certainly what we're trying to do is reach out and find some people who might be interested, who might not yet be post-certified, especially in the area of minorities and females. That's one of the things we've talked to our city manager about. So there's a good possibility that we're going to be doing that as well. And if you have any questions, we've got Jillian and Fred that are here also.
Any questions?
Yes, Scott.
I don't know if you had a chance to read through that latest part of the packet Cynthia sent out. There was some of the feedback from some of the professors at Webster University. And within there, they specifically brought up how, the hiring practices and what kind of personality questions or evaluations were brought forth, trying to encourage some of the social skills in the recruits. I've been impressed in my interactions with the police department and think that it seems just interacting with them in my capacity has been great, but I didn't know if there's a way for us to highlight that, especially when we do talk to Webster, because that was a question that came up twice. If you look in the feedback comments from the professors at Webster University, what were the personality evaluations? How do they have a more lean towards a caring versus authoritarian personality trait? And maybe ask the officers.
Well, it's going to be difficult for them to respond to that question because they aren't too involved in the psychological assessments. And it's one of the things that's difficult really to bring on the psychological assessment. But that's a tool that we obviously use during the hiring process after we've made an offer. And that is, I forget the name of the test, the MP3, whatever. That looks for those kind of qualities, looks for humanistic behavior, but also looks for any red flags that may be an issue. I think the biggest, my opinion is the biggest conveyor of that is the culture of the department itself. That's something that we try and promote here. I mean, you can have a culture where you have a department that's law enforcement oriented, where we're looking to, that's our primary focus is on enforcing laws and arresting people. That's not our primary focus. It's certainly an important thing that we do, but it's not the only thing or stressed here. We're looking at, and Fred and Jillian can both speak to this. I don't think that that's something that we do in terms of being focusing on just strictly the law enforcement things. Our focus is just as much on the humanistic ability of the officers and treating people decently and trying to make connections and solving problems. So Jillian and Fred, you're both welcome to speak up on that issue.
Yeah, I think, Chief kind of hit it on the head. We really try to focus on reaching out to people in the community and building a relationship with them. Unfortunately, a lot of the interactions that we have with people in the community are times where people are desperate, where they need help. They come to us to help them with their problems. And I can speak for myself and the guys that I supervise in the detective bureau. We unfortunately that is our interaction, is when they're kind of at their low point. And so we really try to go in and not only make it a connection with these people, but try to help them, because I mean they're looking at us for help, and you almost have to get down on their level and really try to understand where they're coming from, and trying to help them and try to solve issues that they have. And I think that's a lot of what we do on a day-to-day basis, is really try to get to know the people that are within the community of Webster Groves and try to help them the best they can, and give them the resources if they need the resources to get them there. And so I really think that that's what we do a lot of on a daily basis.
Yeah, Sergeant McCoy pretty much nailed it with Chief Curtis. The one thing it allows us to do is remind us that we're all humans as well, and that we make mistakes, and sometimes we also need help. And it's nice sometimes a jail or a ticket, that's not the solution. Sometimes it's a conversation, or just lending an ear and possibly providing some advice that actually goes a long way. So.
Thank you for those comments. And I think when we do have our meeting with these groups, we need to highlight some of those comments, put them up there, what's drawn you in that way, since that did come up.
I know you guys get training in like de-escalation, and so my background is in mental health. Do you feel like part of the job is mental health? Do you need more, or would you want more mental health training, or what? Or do you feel like it's adequate for the situation and then give them resources and move on?
Jillian, you and Fred can answer these questions, because I do think that we're looking for the input from people on the line, and
Sure.
you're much more geared to that than I am.
Sure. I mean, I can speak, for myself and the guys that I supervise. I feel like the majority of the time, I feel like we are provided what we need to deal with mental health. Every day is changing. It's evolving with mental health. And if you would have asked me maybe 10 years ago in my career about mental health, it would have been different than now, right? Because there's so much education out there about mental health, and there's so much to learn. And I feel like, not only being a police officer, but just being a mom and a wife and just a citizen of the community, I have educated my own self about mental health. And I think that the police department has done a really good job with giving us those resources that we need. But then not only that, we get training every year on mental health, and we get out there. And I think that helps us with dealing with individuals that may have a bad day, who may need that, that encouragement or what have you. And so, yeah, I think as far as training is concerned, I feel like we get adequate training. I mean, it never hurts to get more, obviously. It never hurts anyone to educate themselves more, right? But I do think that we are getting a lot of training. I feel like, my guys, I can speak for my guys that I supervise, I feel like that they are receiving the training that they need. And yeah, I mean, but education never hurts anyone, right? I mean, educating yourself every day, because mental health is evolving every day. So it changes, and you're always finding new statistics and new things about mental health. So yeah, I mean, as long as we're staying up with the current times and learning about the new things with mental health, I think that's very important.
have a question about, just diversity and things like that. Chief Curtis, in our district, we're really trying to solve problems about diversity hiring, and you're doing many of the same things we're trying to do. But in the interview process, are there questions that kind of flag someone's attitude towards diversity, or do you know any of that information?
We have an oral board interview process, and then I also do an personal interview on final candidates.
Mhm.
Some of the questions, they don't directly focus on that, but I mean, some of the questions would bring that out in the course of the conversation. And it's certainly something that when I talk about here, it kind of goes hand in hand with I ask everybody, what do you feel is more important, the law enforcement end of our job, or the service to the community and the quality of life issues? And what I'm looking for is, response to that where at the very least there's an equal weight to it, and followed up by, we have a diverse community. What, how do you feel about those kind of things? How would you, feel like we should police there? So that generally comes out in the interview process. I don't think we have, it might not hurt, it's a thought, we might not hurt to ask that directly, but the questions that we do ask during the interview process does bring that out generally.
Thank you. We usually do it with the scenario question or something like that. And I think we have, I think there's another officer. Is Greg Perks, you're an officer, right?
It's Captain Perks.
Yes, can you hear
Captain
me?
Perks.
It's Captain Perks, yes.
Captain
Sorry,
Perks, you came
Chief
by
was
my house one time when I was in quite a crisis. My husband was having a heart attack and you helped us out, so thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. Yeah, sorry, I was delayed getting here. The chief wouldn't let me in the meeting because I'm logged in under my wife's account.
I wasn't going to let
So-
Mrs. Tara in.
Any more questions?
Fred, did you have anything you wanted to add? You're being too quiet.
Jillian covered everything perfectly.
All right.
Leave it to me, Fred.
Chief, this is Kevin. Do you have any relationship with any of the mental health providers that if a situation occurs that's that goes beyond the police department's expertise, is there some method to refer them on to a professional?
There is we try to hit, our goal is to have every officer here training the crisis intervention team training. Unfortunately, sometimes we get a new officer, they haven't been. We try and get them trained up as soon as possible. I would say at least 90%, if not more, of our officers are CIT trained. And I will let, because I think they're closer to it than me, I'll let either Fred or Jillian speak to that, speak to the kind of training in CIT and the kind of resources that they make available to us.
You guys want it?
Yeah.
If not, I'll jump in on BHR.
Yeah, Kevin, I was just
Yeah,
going to say the exact thing as
Okay, jump in on BHR, Fred.
as Captain Perks. Like Chief Curtis said, we are those of us that have been here for a while, our crisis intervention team that's CIT certified. We go through that training, and then every year, obviously, we get continuing education on that. But once we get to a point on scene, if we realize it's kind of beyond just the initial call of getting that individual further assistance, we do work closely with BHR, a very strong relationship for several years now, and they do a great job providing assistance and additional resources if needed. And they do a great job with following up with us on those issues.
What does BHR stand for?
Behavioral health.
There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Fred, he knows it.
A question, this is Angela. I'm wondering, does that include their trauma-informed training as well?
I'm sorry, the what?
Trauma-informed
Yes,
training?
yes.
Anything else?
I did, sorry, just real quickly, this is my last thing. I did notice on the follow-up sheet and some of the suggestions about training and implicit bias. I mean, we've been over before, but I just wanted to remind everyone that, for instance, last year, and unfortunately, a lot of it, most of it was online, but previous years not, and in future years, hopefully not. But last year, for instance, we had 132 hours of training on implicit bias and racial profiling, and 108 hours of training on de-escalation tactics. So it's something that, I mean, we've done this for the last 15 years, but it's something that we do regularly, and it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one and done.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Well, we really thank all of you. Yes, go ahead. Somebody said something. Well, we thank all of you for joining us. We really appreciate his great insight, great presentation, Chief Curtis. And we'll continue to learn more about what the Webster Groves Police Department has to offer. All right, let's move on. So the number 5, 6, and 7, it was just my way of kind of looking at the our dialogue and how we dialogue about things. And I just was looking at other entities that are very much like ours and what they're doing. And I know I hate giving people homework, but a little bit of homework, just a little bit of background so we don't have to waste time on it. But of those 3, there's 2 articles, and I kind of pulled a snippet from one of from a website. So just in general, what came up for you when you were looking at some of those materials?
Well, on the article Beyond the Conversation, I thought the key takeaways were valuable, especially number 2 on many of the efforts are aimed at building relations with the community, but not enabling members of the public to provide input on policing policies and practices. And I think really the work of this board and the work that Chief Curtis has done prior to this board really has emphasized that particular effort, because I think that he and the police department have listened to some of the conversations that we've had as a board, and some of the police policies have actually changed because of that conversation. So, and I think that, moving on to the ready, set, engage, I think there were some very good points in that discussion on getting the actual police officers to be more engaged with some of the youth in the community. I mean, I don't know if Captain Perks or Captain Spears or Fred or Jillian, I don't know if they're ice hockey people, but we have an ice rink here, and I don't know if they involve themselves in some of the the youngsters that are out on the ice rink. But I thought that some of those ideas were really valuable in actually putting a face to the police department through our youth and then naturally through their parents.
Yes, so what Kevin's talking about, I took a little snippet from an article, and I don't know if you saw it, but it emphasized the non-enforcement time that police officers spend in the community are very valuable. And I think Jillian, you kind of spoke to that a little bit, but just how much the balance of time, because you have to have enforcement. That's what we have police for. But that other side, that humanistic side of people meeting people is so critical when you talk about police community engagement.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I gotta say, my husband and my kids, I have brought them to several things in Webster Groves and trying to talk with everyone within the community and bring my kids in and my my husband is actually from Webster Grove. So it's, I get involved in the community the best I can, because I don't want to just see people when they need us. I want to make that connection with individuals, not when it's the lowest point in their life, I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
I would agree with that, and I think we can do more of that. But I also want to make sure that, we've talked about it before. There are a lot of events that we have or that we've engaged in. Probably one of the most important is our SRO Cam down at Hickson High School. It's in the Boys to Men program. Unfortunately, they were in a hiatus this year, but he's interacted with those students down there for the last 3 years, and having that face of the police department there has nothing to do with law enforcement, which is another thing. I just wanted. I keep going off the track a little bit, but our SROs aren't in the schools for law enforcement purposes. To enforce laws. They're there to facilitate the learning, to help the administration and the staff, and also be available for public safety needs whenever they need someone for those kind of instances. But in general, they're there to interact with the students, and it's a really good tool for us. We have a great relationship with the school district. They have a great relationship with the students. So it's a big thing, and it's the area where we can touch the most people. And some of those, like the ice rink thing, and some of the other, like the police athletic leagues, unfortunately, we don't have a large enough population really to garner a lot of interest from the youth to make some of those things productive. Not that, I'm not saying that we don't want to try to do some of those things, but it's really difficult to have large events or organized events because there just aren't that many people. I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Just raising my hand, but I wondered, and it'll come up later during the Webster engagement. I was thinking of throwing that out there to the student population. I thought a key component when we go to that population, you do have a student body of a size that might get involved in engagement activities or community service activities together with the police department side by side. And I was hoping that could be an agenda item when we go to talk to them. What are some ideas on how to walk side by side on some community service and bring visibility and, bring that youth, the college idealism to the forefront to push us over the top. So I don't know what you think about that.
No, I think that's certainly a good idea. I think it's an avenue that we certainly would be interested in, and I think is more than worth investigating.
And I think part of that little piece to the article was not, you don't always have to go over the top with being present, you just have to be there. So I know we don't have officers walking the beat, and I know there's a lot of logistics around that, but there are times when you can park your car and just get out for a couple minutes if you see some kids or some people gathered, just to say hi and communicate. And I can tell you the power of that is vast. Just having people know that you stopped and said hi,
And I'll just elaborate a little bit more, being the community engagement guy. Unfortunately, last year was a rough one with the pandemic, everyone knows. But before that, it's one of the things that allowed me to do what I was able to do was the free time the department gave me just to engage in the community. So at that time, I was able to, attend the chess program that Ed Johnson was holding at the Webster Rock Hill Ministry. It allowed me to meet some of the students that he had there and actually play chess with them. So I stopped there for a while, got to, interact and just play chess as one chess player to another. So that was a pretty cool feeling. And then I was actually working with the Webster Groves Public Library, actually starting to read to the kids. So I got a couple books in, and then unfortunately the pandemic kind of shut us down for a while, but I've still been in contact with staff there. So hopefully once this goes back to normal, we can start that back up.
I think you can do some virtual thing. That sounds awesome.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more interactive. Yeah.
Yeah. The other article, the one with the 5 questions, I'm just going to bring it up. Maybe I won't. Let's see. I know you can't see all of that, but so it was the 5 questions really were intriguing to me. What are the goals of the engagement that we have? With whom do we want to engage? What is being done to educate the audience so that it can engage in a meaningful way? And Fred talked about that a little bit. What steps will be taken to ensure that those who choose to engage actually are heard? And what will be done to respond to input in order to show respect for those who participate? Okay, I'll stop sharing. So what do you think about those questions?
Community activity right now, mentoring young Christians as they help renovate a house, period. It's just not in Webster Groves.
Oh.
Hello?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I hadn't had a chance to read those just yet.
Okay.
This was something new to me. Kind of coming back though to what we were just talking about. I'm actually at we're doing a rehab. My church is doing a rehab, so I have to turn my camera off because the chief side looks scary. But looking at those questions, I think it takes, off the top, if we're trying to answer them off at the cuff, I think we could probably come up with an answer. But I think I would like to have a little time to look at some of those, and really have a thoughtful answer to them, because I think that'd be more appropriate. And I think, again, I think that's what we're looking for, is a thoughtful conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Cindy, I really liked these. This spoke to me a lot, just because I think defining, we all assume that we know what we're talking about by engagement, but we all might mean something a little bit different. So I really like the idea of like going back to basics at some point, or in some aspect of our conversation or at our retreat or whatever, and making sure that we're all on the same page. What does engagement look like? What does it mean? And then that's an important starting place, to be on the same page.
Those questions really hit me, and I just happened by them. And you're right, we can all be having good intentions, but we might be all going in slightly opposing directions. I think if we can all have the same group think about how we approach engagement, and as you saw from all of the examples that the officers were sharing, everybody's engaging. We want to make sure that people know about it, and we want to make sure that there are people out there who need that engagement, a certain kind of engagement, and we want to make sure that they're getting it. I would hope that would be sort of at the crux of what we're doing here. Yes, Kevin.
I think we've touched on all of these, but very haphazardly. So, during the last couple of years, I think that we have touched on each one of these questions, but I think that this is really good to kind of focus our attention in a more formal way to actually come up with specific goals that outline what an engagement, what we think an engagement should look like. Again, I think we've discussed a lot of it, but I think it's been a very haphazard and valuable, but not a formalized discussion and outcome.
Thank you, Kevin.
I agree. I think it could be a way to kind of evolve our mission statement and put it out there, maybe on the web, from those questions. I thought they really were at the core. Just answering them together, like you said, as a group would be great.
Anyone else?
Something that just kind of got clarified for me, and probably because our officers are here and kind of talking about what the day-to-day is, I feel like there's 2 types of engagement that are significant. One is sort of the day-to-day, calm, friendly, out in the community engagement. And then there's the crisis engagement. And so those are 2 really different types of engagement and types of needs that citizens have during those engagements. But they're both really important, I think, for the work that we're doing.
Awesome, Katie.
Yeah, I agree with you, Katie. There definitely is two different kinds of engagement. Identifying the difference between the two and then making sure that we're tackling those two the way that they should. Because I mean, you think about it, they really are different. And I think it's important that we talk about it. And I think it's important that both of those happen. So yeah, no, I agree with you, Katie.
The other part of that, though, is there's also two sides to the crisis engagements, and that is some crisis engagements either lend themselves or we should at least be attempt to making them in terms of things like the CIT. There's other crisis issues that unfortunately the only direction is that we have to go on the law enforcement end. So again, I think that we try to reinforce to the officers the importance of handling the situation in a non-criminal manner whenever possible. But unfortunately, there's going to be those engagements where it has to be handled as a criminal incident. And when that's over, we can look for things there that we might be able to help in terms of mental health issues or social issues, but we have to handle it through the criminal justice system. So again, actually, fortunately here, there aren't that many of those, but those are out there. And it's something that we do have to recognize and remember when the officers are on the street, because it is important for officer safety and for public safety that we do address those kind of things.
Well, I understand you, Chief Curtis, as a school principal. I know both sides of that. Yeah, there are times when, yeah, you got to get down to business, and I understand that. But then in those times when we're not enforcing, those are really important. And like reading a book in a Zoom, and Fred, I'm going to keep going back to you. I'm expecting you to do a Zoom book.
I'll have to send you a link when that takes place.
Any other thoughts?
He would be great for that.
Any other thoughts on those articles? I'd like to return back to them. I know we got a pretty crowded agenda today, but if it's okay, we can come back and kind of take a deeper dive on those questions. Maybe, I don't know, Katie, if there's enough room at the retreat or maybe at the next, I know, at the next meeting, we'll take a little deeper dive on that.
I just want to say thank you for those, Cindy.
Oh, you're
that was
welcome.
really spurred on a good discussion, and I appreciated the time that you took to research those. Yeah, and they're a good basis for further discussion. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mayor Welch. Moving on, if there's nothing else on that, I did have a quick conversation with Dr. Riss, and just a little background. Dr. Riss, I used to work in the Webster Grove School District most of my career. I now work in the Brentwood School District, and so Dr. Riss was my supervisor at one time, and my superintendent. So we have a strong relationship. But I've worked with her with the Alliance for Interracial Dignity, and she kind of circled back to me. She heard I had I'm on this board, and she found out that I was chair, and she was really proud of me, and I like that she contacted me. She did share some things with me, and I'll kind of synthesize it right now. In essence, the Alliance would like to partner with us. They always want to partner with us on this issue, because there are some implications of race when we're talking about policing. We can't really get around it. In fact, issues of race are everywhere now, and always have been, really. And so this committee sunsets in October, and so the Alliance is putting some efforts together to try to look at the ordinance, to have it extended, and also to specifically look at issues of race. And I think we need to be clear when we talk about race. It's not bad to talk about race. Race is race. You know, it's a part of our society, and it's something we have to tackle now in all areas. We have to tackle it in education, you know, policing, in the workforce, all kinds of areas. And so really talking about race, we're in a very racially diverse community with a very long history regarding racial encounters and some hurt that is left in the community. And it's left with people who probably aren't even here anymore. But that pain, the remnants of that pain are still kind of sitting open and like a wound. So we have to think about how we can address those issues too. And so one thing the Alliance would love to do, a couple of things, is they would like to put in the ordinance something specific about diversity and equity. Just some language about that it's obviously, Chief Curtis has shown, our officers have shown, it's obviously something that the police force values and they have training around it. And so really capitalizing on all of that with the community. The Alliance would also like to, in particular, help send out the survey that so much time and effort has been put into. They have some ministers that can kind of shoot it out in a variety of ways. So she wanted me to let you know that that is ready and available to this board when we're ready to ship it out to her. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. They want to also help, you want to offer any assistance for training, diversity training for this board. I know it's come up several times. Be a great opportunity for us all to kind of discuss where we come from with race. It's just like engagement. We probably all have a different story to tell regarding race, and it's good that we share those stories. So I want to put that out there. Any thoughts, any comments?
The city is about to engage some professional help with diversity, equity, and inclusion and training. And so I think that will be something that will be very much open to this board and will be a good piece to hang in there with everything else that the city's doing. But we're really pleased with, we did an equity audit and had the results of that at our last council meeting. And we are going to engage a firm, a consultant, to help us through that. So I think I wanted you all to know that, because that'll be open for this board too. And that'll be a really good way for us to jump in there.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I would love the AID to move the survey out into the community and help us do that. But I think that what we'll find out with Scott's presentation is there's some possible modifications that we may have to make to it potentially, and I'm okay with that. But because I think it needs to be, I think it was well thought out, but I think it can always be improved. Anything can be improved upon. And I think that it's part of the education process. I mean, in the articles that you provided that I absolutely loved, one of the things that was important in the article is that both parties, both sides of the engagement need to be educated as to why the engagement should take place. And I think that was really the whole emphasis behind the survey and why the survey was formulated the way it was, because it's a lot different than when it started, when we had that discussion. And that's why it took so long to develop it, is because we kind of went back and forth as to what its benefit would be. So, I think that, so I think I want to kind of table that discussion on the survey itself until we hear from Scott on his final meetings with the professors at Webster University. Yeah, I mean, I would love to engage them and have them offer their assistance in getting that out to the community.
Awesome.
I'm sorry if you guys talked about this. But one of the questions that that we just, I had to go stop my kitchen from burning down. But I was wondering, have we set on like a date or a time frame to sort of like have the end point be where we could kind of like collate all of the answers and kind of basically be, prepared to kind of talk about what we've found, or kind of like a next step beyond the survey, or like kind of like when that endpoint will be and what maybe we could do with that. Maybe it's like a community forum, or, taking the most interesting findings from it and really further the discussions. And maybe by then, in person, but we'll see. But, that would be great to have almost like a, town hall type of thing at that point.
Is there,
I don't know.
have we talked about that? I don't think I've heard an end date. So that's something maybe on the next agenda. We'll put that down and kind of try to firm up. Let's have a pause point, but we'll wait to see what Scott has in a couple of items here, so that we know if we have to adjust. Okay.
I think we've had a difficult start date, much less an end date at this point, right?
Yeah. So the survey kind of formalizing a timeline for the survey is really important.
I think that would be helpful, especially for people to be more involved with it. If they knew that there was going to be like an outcome and it wasn't just the survey going out into the internet and they'll never hear anything about it, just to kind of know that there's like something concrete going to happen at the end.
Otherwise it'll keep evolving and it'll be the endless survey. Yeah.
I think also, in addition to the information that Scott's going to share, if we could look at the results we have so far, because I think looking at those will give us a lot of information. Are those same questions that, or the feedback that Scott received, do we see them in the results in the survey? So I think it would be useful to us also to kind of review what we already have in that discussion. And then as far as the Alliance, I really am glad you all did have the conversation, and I think we should definitely take advantage of the support that they're offering. I think it's a sign of community engagement.
Thank you, Angela. Okay, so the next meeting we'll put some time into the survey and formalize that. That's an important goal. Okay, Katie and Angela. Survey time, retreat time.
Angela, do you want to start?
Well, I'll start. I know we did have an opportunity to reach out to Cindy, who gave us some feedback as well on some of the things that we're planning, and some input on some things that have been helpful in her experience. I was also thinking earlier that with those 5 questions, that the retreat might be a really good time to do that, and I think, we should take time to do that. And it's, I think it speaks to, what Katie and I were trying to do anyway. So I really appreciate those questions, and really will help guide us, because one of the things we wanted to do was to have some goals, set some goals, and come away from the retreat with some action plans. So I think that would be a great segue, a great opportunity for us to be.
Thank you, Angela.
And Cindy, I did not somehow, I'm going to check my, like my, what's it called? Spam. I didn't get your reply. So
okay.
Angela, I'm so glad that you have the reply, because I don't have it.
So just a heads up to people. So we in Brentwood, we did a book dialogue as an administrative team, and I'm researching out there. I found some norms that we used in dialoguing, when you're dialoguing about tough issues of race and diversity in particular. And the norms really hold true. It's like 4 or 5 of them about engagement, staying engaged, what happens if you feel stressed, or if you want to check out. It's always hard not to check out when you don't like what you're hearing. And so kind of speaks to those. And Katie, I'll send those directly to you. I'll send it to both of you again.
Thank you. So I think, I know we have not, tried to set a date, and and we talked a little bit about trying to connect with everybody to figure out when we can actually have the retreat. Just some dedicated time to some of the things that we're, trying to do during our meeting time.
What if I sent out a doodle? And, Doodle's like an online tool where I'll send a bunch of dates. And Katie and Angela, maybe send me some dates and then I'll just plug it into a doodle, or you guys can, and we'll see what common dates we have between now and the next couple of months.
That sounds good. I think a doodle is the best way to do it. And just, I think I said this last time, but I think Angela and I are really aware that everybody feels crunched for time and that it's not going to be all day on Saturday, an hour and a half, something like that. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So Katie and Angela, let's try to get that doodle out this week, because I'm on spring break and that's about, otherwise it'll just get really crazy. All right. And Kevin, you went to the DEI conference at Webster, or through Webster?
I won't take a lot of time. I just wanted to congratulate Webster University for putting on a conference that was so beneficial and full of great information. I think in a lot of respects in the diversity, equity, and inclusion area, there's various levels that we're all at, and I'm probably closer to the education level versus the action, and I think that was brought out very effectively in the conference. I wasn't able to attend all the sessions, but the ones I did that were the students and the faculty put a lot of time and effort into that conference, and the information provided was incredibly valuable. It started out with Kai Stowers, who's a transgender individual that really kind of, it was a little strange at the beginning as to why it would start out that way, but then once I sat through it, I realized that sometimes that we need to be mindful in our intercultural communication, and it was really how to show up in mind, body, and heart in this conversation. And then Dr. Redrick Nunn, Johnny Taylor, and Ramona Palmer Eason talked about, it was a great discussion on seeing a person rather than a record in second chance employment opportunities. So they discussed how opportunities could be better available for those that are coming out of our criminal justice system to be, again, productive members of society. And then Zakia Mabry talked about improving the disability experience in organizations. And it was just very invigorating conversation, and really quite eye-opening in a lot of respects. And then they also talked about the power of allyship, how you can work within an organization to build allies, and both and the difference in how the outlook was between actually the two races. We're both coming from different life experiences, which is no fault of either. It just is. And then my wife Lisa and I actually listened to Patrice Cullors during her presentation, and she's a co-founder of Black Lives Matter. And her conversation was very interesting. Some of which I thought some of her ideas were very good. Others I don't agree with. A point that she had made was that organization really their goal is to abolish the current political or police department system and the criminal justice system, and I just don't agree with that. But that's she made that point several times during that presentation, and then probably one of the more powerful presentations was at the very end, And it was really done by the staff at Webster University. And it, I would like to, and I don't think we're going to have time in our retreat to do this, but because it was an hour-long presentation, but it was, what do you do to improve diversity, equity, and inclusion in your normal daily life? And it was very eye-opening on some things that we have been talking about, such as implicit bias, and the thought processes through implicit bias, and it just comes out in our ordinary daily events. And during this education process, I realized how many implicit biases I have personally. And once you recognize them, then they stand out. They're just so obvious. But it was just a wonderful conference, and I just wanted to really give kudos to Webster University on putting it together. And then one thing I did forget is they have a program called Bridge Builders that is a St. Louis, Dupree, South Dakota exchange of young people from an Indian reservation in Dupree, South Dakota, with students from Webster University. And it's a two-way exchange program. Unfortunately, COVID reared its ugly head, and they weren't able to have it last year. But students from Webster and high school students from this area, they have to go through an application process to become a part of the program, and then they actually visit with a very intentional agenda. They visit the Indian reservation in Dupree, and then in turn, the young folks in Dupree visit Webster University in the St. Louis area. So it's a real neat exchange program that they have going on. So anyway, that's all I have at this point.
That was great. Kevin, can you, I hope, I want to, some of those names, can you send those out to all of us? I'd like to look some of those people up, see if they have Twitter follows or something like that.
Okay.
Nice.
Yep, I will do
Thank
that.
you. That was really good information. Something we can all kind of think about. It's a daily thing. How do you include diversity, equity, and inclusion in your day-to-day life? It doesn't happen. I always say this, it doesn't happen in these circles. It happens in that moment when action needs to take place. So something to remember. Thank you. I'm gonna go straight to Scott instead of going to number 11, because I think Scott's presentation will have an impact on how we think about the survey. So Scott.
Okay, yeah, I think Cynthia sent out, I gave her some of the feedback I got from some of the Webster professors when I had presented the idea that we want to have a date where we come meet with them as a group. So you all should have that feedback in the latest packet from Cynthia. You probably didn't have much time to review it. I worry we could get caught up in trying to find the perfect survey and constantly in chase of that all the time, because it seems when I was talking to various professors, they all have different ideas exactly what should be included or not. But the idea that we need to have open-ended questions, make sure that when we read through it that we invite that general opinion. I think you'll see that come through on various of the comments from the professors that I had take the survey. I don't have the raw data from them yet. I think it would be probably very good to get that from Jennifer Starkey before our meeting so we can review it, and I would share that with the group here immediately so we can go into that meeting knowing how the first pass of the survey with the professors, that some of which have training in this field, what their thoughts were and how they filled it out and how useful that data would be. Some questions were reminiscent of ones that we had discussed all the way back for the past year and a half. I think, how safe would you feel calling the police in various police department in various situations? I think we've had that spirit about it. We just differ on how we word it. I think it's interesting to see how we just keep going around in circles around the same idea. The greatest hope, though, is actually just to make contact with the students, the faculty, and have the, like we have tonight. I think it's so wonderful having members of the police department and the chief present together, at least in Zoom and eventually in the same room, to have that give and take. Because I think there is a desire to have engagement going in every direction, from the police department to them and back and forth. So I think a lot of this we've touched on before. I don't think there's something spectacularly different. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, than anything we've talked about before. I do know that one issue that kept coming up talking to them is, what do we do with this? Where do we send it? How are you going to show that you're listening to us? How are you going to respond to it? And I have gone to the Webster Groves City site, even today, just looking again. If I click on our name and it says, how do you contact us, leave a message with us, and it says leave it with Chief Curtis at his email. And I still think that's got to be something we have to prioritize, that we are this board and we have our own site where we're going to reposit this information. I think that is a legitimate concern. And how will we then be liaison in these discussions? If it goes, it should go to us, and then we take turns reading through it and presenting it and making sure that we're responding. We bring back a response. So that was some of the biggest issue, that they need to know how to contact us, give us feedback. And also, these are some notes that Jennifer Starkey put together from those conversations. The date, I've really been pushing to get a date that they can meet. It's been difficult. They're looking in April, a Tuesday in April. The Tuesday is available, the 13th, 20th, and 27th. I don't know if it was appropriate to be concerned with the implications of April 20th would mean to certain segments of the population to have a meeting with the police on that particular day. But I do know we already have on the 27th a meeting of our own, and I don't want to interfere with the city council meeting. So I was going to tell Jennifer after tonight what would be our preferred meeting date, and how quickly can we hustle it together, an agenda. I think our agenda probably should be just, again, our introduction slides, pushing out the survey, maybe at that time, getting ideas how to use it, listening. They definitely, I heard from the faculty, we need to listen and record and hear what is said, and take that back for our group discussion. And then I also threw out there what I mentioned earlier, maybe some planned event that is non-enforcement, like we were talking earlier, that we can do together with them, and see what the student population or the faculty think would be a good event to highlight engagement. So those are the biggest factors. So any thoughts to the floor about the date, the survey? Maybe you can also send them back to me, and I can make sure Jennifer gets those, just to simplify the process of feedback to her. So any thoughts?
You were thinking more the 20th. How do people feel about the 20th?
Yeah, she was fine with the 20th. It's just, again, 420, what that means to some people.
Oh.
Can you remind us the time of day we were thinking for the meeting?
I would think it'd be early evening, if that would be, but let me hear what you have to say on that, because I'll make sure that we pick the time best for everyone, because as many of us can get there. I think this probably is a good springboard for other engagements.
Scott, I mean, it would be okay with me and the police department, because I could have a stand, but that is a council night.
Which one?
April 20th.
Is it? Okay.
I don't know what time works best for students. So many of the Webster University students are day students, they go home, they work. Are we better off trying to get this at some point during the day? I just throw that out there because I'm not sure what is a good time to engage with Webster University students.
I would think around 3 or 4 p.m., wouldn't you think? I mean, thinking back to college days and the usual schedules. That's what Jennifer had thought, somewhere around there, I'm pretty certain.
So
And I
3 or
can-
4, not 7
4,
o'clock. at night.
not this late. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, I
Say
agree.
4 o'clock.
And do you on the board think, and mayor and the chief and the officers, do you think that would be a workable time frame? Looking at 4 p.m.
It's workable for us.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, check on
I think 3
3:30.
o'clock would probably, yeah, I think 3 o'clock would be too close to when they dismiss. And
Yeah.
so I would say 4 o'clock would be better.
Yeah.
So they're at home and, you know, we actually have a time to get in there as well.
Would April 13th be too soon? I think it'd be great to just get this going.
Scott, I have another question. Will this be facilitated through classes in particular, or is it like an open, something that people will sign up to attend? I'm trying to, when I worked on college campus, I'm trying to get a sense of how people will be notified about this and attend. Because that may inform, because what I've done before is had something earlier in the day, like around the lunchtime, because people are kind of, in between class. I mean, there's no magic time, but I would always do something earlier and then toward the end, because you have commuter students who are trying to leave. You have those that, so I used to that's why I'm asking kind of how people will sign up.
Well, that's why I took effort to get various faculty members that were most interested in this to have a quick group discussion and powwow, and then disseminate through through their connections within the university. I'm hopeful, plus Jennifer and Vince Wallen, hoping they can get the message out. I imagine our initial attendance is not going to be huge, but if we can start to get that little nidus going, then moving forward, I just think it's important to just start something. Then I think they agreed with that. Yeah. And then we can build it to something greater towards fall.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Did Jennifer provide you with any time that might be ideal?
We had
Jennifer,
discussion,
Vince?
and I can clarify that. I had thought it was, again, the late afternoon.
Late afternoon,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I had thought, but I don't want to misrepresent. I have a lot of things coming at me right now, but that's how I remember it.
So Scott, you want to try for the 13th at 4, kind of shoot it out there to her?
Yeah, I'll shoot it out if everybody here is feels they can work around that quickly, or at least many. I'll make it work.
Scott, I also had a question about some of their concerns about having the email addresses required to complete the survey. And I guess Cindy, this is directed to you. That's a requirement, isn't it, for that?
We can turn it off.
We
can make
can
it-
turn it off?
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, personally, I don't have an issue with it if you're expressing an opinion and it's a strong opinion. I think that you should be willing to share who you are, but that's just my personal opinion. A lot of people don't have that. So I do get it and I do understand. But yeah,
I can make it not required. We can make it an option.
Okay.
Yeah, I know in our hospital surveys that we've done to have nurses and doctors report different behaviors that are not what we want them to be around the hospital. Many times the anonymity has been important to drive that participation.
I think it's good, and we just trust the system. Surveys get kind of dicey sometimes, but I think it's something that we can sacrifice.
Can we have it somewhere that people would like to provide the email address?
Yeah, I
Email
can
or
make that
just-
field,
yeah.
not a required field, so they
An
can put it
optional
in.
field. Yeah.
Yeah,
Would we be providing it in print or will we push it out at that time? How should we get this out? I sent it as a packet, I think a PDF to them. Is that how you would want?
oh goodness, no, I would just put the link to the survey. Because it just automatically calibrates everything for you.
Yeah, it tallies the results for you, and then you can actually go look at the individual comments.
Right, I remember. I don't, yeah, I'll make sure I have that link and give it back to Jennifer one more time. Make sure that we have it right.
Want me to send it to you tomorrow?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Let's circle back to number 11. Have we discussed this enough with the survey, or do we want to put it, like, make it the priority for next month's agenda is just solely the survey? Let's get this survey timeline and everything kind of put together next. That's what I propose. We use all of next meeting to just really solidify the survey. We good with that?
I agree, because we'll have had this practice run.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be distributed to the Webster University folks though prior to our next meeting, right? So
Yes.
then we'll talk about the timeline, what we're going to do with the data, how we present it back. Do we have a town, the things that Jean was talking about earlier in the meeting.
Yeah. And our next meeting is the 27th, so that'll fit in perfectly. And Kevin, do I look now for comments in my email?
Yeah, I don't know if you've received any.
I have not.
Yeah, I had not. I received, I think, one the last meeting that I shared with the group, but the previous 2 or 3, I had not received any remarks of visitors.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to once again thank all of the police officers who came. Chief Curtis, thank you for that great presentation. Everybody, it was a great meeting. I was a little nervous, but it's a great meeting.
Great
So, take it easy, enjoy yourself, do something really wonderful for yourself sometime this week. And I will adjourn the meeting now.
Fabulous meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Chief, how do I get off here?
Don't worry, in about 2 seconds, I'm going to get you off.
Okay. You like my dog?
I do like your dog. Is your baby in bed?
Yes, my babies are in bed. I apologize for that. That was a shit show.
Not a problem. All right, thanks. We'll see you. Good night.
All right. Bye. Exit this.